Back to my channel. This is Old New Dude here with
Richard York, Asher's trueborn son.
It is Friday, the Friday before a long weekend for most, except for my wife. She has to work Monday, so I laughed. So I got to cook dinner tonight. Coming off that three floating heads with the green bar the other night, I had a blast. I know Richard did.
Oh yeah.
I would love to set up a live stream with him where we, instead of talking about a chapter, just talk about theories. But I'll send him a DM, see if he'd be up for it. But we are on Catlin 7. And as normal, if you've watched this channel before, Richard will start with what he saw in the chapter, and then I'll jump in with my stupid stuff. But on a funny note, before we get started, because you know I like to talk, the hour and 14 minutes that we were talking with the Green Bard, an hour of it, my side of my screen was frozen the whole time. So I couldn't see me, I couldn't see you, I couldn't see him, I couldn't see any movement whatsoever. So if I look like an idiot there, which, let me rephrase that, if I look like I'm more of an idiot than normal, it's because I couldn't see anything. So it was just weird looking at a screen that's no movement whatsoever. So other than that, but all right, take it away, Richard.
All right, so this is going to be the chapter with the trial by combat of Tyrion. It's going to have flashbacks to Brandon and Littlefinger.
Yes.
The eastern sky was rose and gold as the sun broke over the Vale of Arryn. Catelyn Stark watched the light spread, her hands resting on the delicate carved stone of the balustrade outside her window. Below her, the world turned from black to indigo to green as dawn crept across fields and forests. Pale white mists rose off Alyssa's tears, where the ghost waters plunged over the shoulder of the mountain to begin their long tumble down the face of the giant's lance. Catelyn could feel the faint touch of spray on her face. Alyssa Arryn had seen her husband, her brothers, and all her children slain, and yet in life she had never shed a tear. So in death, the gods had decreed that she would know no rest until her weeping watered the black earth of the Vale, where the men she had loved were buried. Alyssa had been dead 6,000 years now, and still no drop of the torrent had ever reached the valley floor far below. Catelyn wondered how large a waterfall her own tears would make when she died. "Tell me the rest of it," she said. "The Kingslayer is massing a host at Casterly Rock," Sir Roderick Castle answered from the room behind her. "Your brother writes that he has sent riders to the rock, demanding that Lord Tywin proclaim his intent, but he has had no answer. Edmure has commanded Lord Vance and Lord Piper to guard the pass below the Golden Tooth. He vows to you that he will yield no foot of Tully land without first watering it with Lannister blood."
Mm-hmm.
So Cat is Alyssa, right? She's the one who's going to see her children all dead, and
right.
And Edmure is sort of as amazing in his mistakes of war as Cat is in her mistake of starting the war.
Right.
"My father would not have given the defense of Riverrun over to Edmure unless he was very sick," she said, worried, which is a great observation, as usual from Cat.
Right. She's very intelligent.
Catelyn grimaced. "The dwarf has played her like a set of pipes, and she's too deaf to hear the tune. Whatever happens this morning, Sir Roderick, it is past time we took our leave. My place is at Winterfell with my sons." This is correct.
You should already be there.
Lysa's policies varied with her moods, and her moods changed hourly. The shy girl she had known at Riverrun had grown into a woman who was by turns proud, fearful, cruel, dreamy, reckless, timid, stubborn, vain, and above all, inconstant.
That's a lot of descriptive words.
When that vile turnkey of hers had come crawling to tell them that Tyrion Lannister wished to confess, Catelyn had urged Lysa to have the dwarf brought to them privately. But no, nothing would do but that her sister must make a show of him before half the Vale. As we've said, Cat is observant and intelligent and definitely knows her sister.
Right. Well, I mean, not that this was the intent of Lysa, but if Tyrion did confess to the murder or something and had to be punished with the king's justice, You would need the whole court to say, okay, it was legit.
Yeah, you
He
have to see wanting
confessed.
witnesses,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I mean, that's not why Lisa did it. But I mean,
Yeah, because you can understand why somebody would want witnesses for this, sure.
yeah, especially with somebody that important.
I asked your sister for leave to take 1,000 seasoned men and ride for River Run with all haste. Do you know what she told me? The Vale cannot spare 1,000 swords, nor even one, uncle, she said. You are the knight of the gate. Your place is here. A gust of childish laughter drifted through the open doors behind him, and her uncle glanced darkly over his shoulder. Well, I told her she could bloody well find herself a new knight of the gate. Blackfish or no, I am still a Tully. I shall leave for River Run by evenfall. Catelyn could not pretend a surprise. Alone? You know as well as I that you will never survive the high road. Sir Roderick and I are returning to Winterfell. Come with us, uncle. I will give you your 1,000 men. River Run will not fight alone. Brendan thought a moment, then nodded a brusque agreement. As you say, it's the long way home, but I'm more like to get there. I'll wait for you below. Wise, and they're both heading that way. Also, I think it's worth commenting every time you hear, I see the high road now, I think about what you said about how the high road represents the moral high ground, right? Taking the high road. And so she's arguably telling him, hey, if you're all honorable about this, you're going to die.
I'm glad I made an impact with that. I mean,
oh yeah, definitely, and I think I've probably heard other people say it too, but I totally missed it when we were reading it through that time, and it's a brilliant observation, very important to point out. I think
I have my moments.
She had seen Bronn fight on the high road. It was no accident that he had survived the journey while other men had died. He moved like a panther, and that ugly sword of his seemed a part of his arm. Sounds like a water dancer mixed with Khal Drogo, or possibly the Spotted Cat. Yep. There's also actually another pit fighter that's mentioned to fight like a panther. I mean, Khal Drogo specifically, we're told that he fights like a panther.
Right.
And so that'd be the one that George is probably thinking of when he writes this, right? He's thinking of the water dancers and mixed with Khal Drogo. I think it's one of the female pit fighters in Marine is also mentioned as fighting like a panther.
Yeah. Dang it, I can't remember her name.
Yeah, and then the Spotted Cat is pretty clearly I mean, he's never actually referred to as fighting like a panther, but he's referred to as fighting like a shadow or something. I can't remember. He's clearly the dangerous one.
Yeah.
I believe the Lannisters murdered Jon Arryn, Catelyn replied, but whether it was Tyrion or Sir Jaime or the Queen or all of them together, I could not begin to say. Lysa had named Cersei in the letter she had sent to Winterfell, but now she seemed certain that Tyrion was the killer, perhaps because the dwarf was here while the Queen was safe behind the walls of the Red Keep, hundreds of leagues to the south. Catelyn almost wished she had burned her sister's letter before reading it. As Preston would say, our narrators consistently reach incorrect conclusions. Ned and Varys assumed Jon Arryn was killed for asking questions, when he was actually fighting with his wife and taking her Robert away from her. Similarly, we've got people. Kat herself, will later get Robb to come to the conclusion that the cat's paw was sent to silence because Bran had silenced Bran because he'd seen something, which is not true. I don't know anybody who believes that to be true. Even the people who think that Joff, who the evidence is he was familiar with Valyrian steel, so he decided to give away the only Valyrian steel blade his family had, and then to pay somebody even though he never pays for anything and never carries money, and somehow found himself getting a bag of silver even though a single gold piece would be easier, and he did it to impress his parents by not telling them. It's like, and we know this because Tyrion remembers that he wanted to kill Bran, even though he specifically said he had no interest in Bran and had no desire to kill Bran, and in fact wanted to kill Summer. And Jaime's logic of, well, sure, Robert wanted to kill him, and sure, maybe there's other people there who might also want him dead, but there's nobody else, so it must have been Joffrey.
Isn't it funny how everybody is misjudging and everybody is coming up with the same conclusion, pretty much, of this one situation?
Right. And like I said, you know that they're wrong. You know it. Even if you believe that it's Joffrey, you know that they're wrong, right? All the logic that they're using is wrong. You know that what Tyrion remembers is the opposite of what happened. He specifically said, I have no interest in Bran. I don't want Bran killed. And the Tyrion remembers that he wanted Bran killed. No, he didn't.
You know what misremembering means?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Hidden fingers? Maybe.
Maybe.
The boy is utterly without discipline. He will never be strong enough to rule unless he is taken away from his mother for a time. His lord father agreed with you, said a voice at her elbow. She turned to behold Maester Coleman, a cup of wine in his hand. He was planning to send the boy to Dragonstone for fostering, you know. And then a little later, you're mistaken, Maester, Catelyn said. It was Castley Rock, not Dragonstone, and those arrangements were made after the hand's death without my sister's consent. The maester's head jerked so vigorously at the end of his absurdly long neck that he looked half a puppet himself. No, begging your forgiveness, my lady, but it was Lord John who... Interruptions often indicate key information is being conveyed if we are able to extrapolate the interruption. In this case, it's easy to extrapolate. Therefore, we know Jon Arryn's decision before he was killed, rather than Robert's decision after, is what's important here.
Right.
The other brought him a triangular shield almost 4 feet tall, heavy oak dotted with iron studs. They strapped it to his left forearm. When Lysa's master-at-arms offered Broad a similar shield, the sword spat and waved it away. Oak and iron guard me well. That's from Dunk and Egg, for those that don't know, or A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Rattleshirt, or rather Mance Rayder glamored to look like Rattleshirt, waved away the shield offered him in favor of a two-handed sword in Jon's 6th chapter in Dance. This is sort of an echo of this.
Yeah.
I thought it only fitting that our champion avenge Jon with his own blade. The engraved silver blade was beautiful beyond a doubt, but it seemed to Catelyn that Ser Vardis might have been more comfortable with his own sword. Yet she said nothing. She was weary of futile arguments with her sister. There's quite a bit of Cat seeing mistakes and realizing an argument is futile in this chapter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just on the weapon itself, she's correct. You never want to take.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember a story about
sword or rifle, whatever.
I remember a story about a marathon runner who made the mistake of accepting a gift of shoes before a marathon, and it basically cost him the race.
No.
Yeah, you don't do that.
No.
Her lord father promised her to Brandon Stark, and so it was to him that she gave her token, a pale blue handscarf she had embroidered with the leaping trout of River Run. As she pressed it into his hand, she pleaded with him. He's only a foolish boy, but I have loved him like a brother. It would grieve me to see him die. And her betrothed looked at her with the cool gray eyes of a Stark and promised to spare the boy who loved her. A blue favor, blue like Lyanna.
Yeah.
When the river was lapping at their ankles, Brandon finally ended it, the brutal backhand cut that bit through Peter's rings and leather into the soft flesh below the ribs, so deep that Catelyn was certain that the wound was mortal. He looked at her as he fell and murmured "cat" as the bright blood came flowing out between his mailed fingers. She thought she had forgotten that. And then in a clash of kings, Daenerys 4, rubies flew like drops of blood from the chest of a dying prince, and he sank to his knees in the water, and with his last breath murmured a woman's name.
It's amazing how many rhymings he has. I'm assuming we're going to see the third one of these in the next 2 books.
I wouldn't be surprised if something like this is going to happen again. Yep.
Yep. But speaking of 3, before you go on, never mind. We're not there yet.
Okay.
I jumped the gun. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Lysa helped their maester nurse him. She'd been softer and shyer in those days. Edmure had called on him as well, but Peter had sent him away. Her brother had acted as Brandon's squire at the duel, and Littlefinger would not forgive that. So Littlefinger's grudge against Starks and Tullys is a huge part of the story, and you have to wonder if the fact this calls out Edmure as Brandon's squire in particular, if that will somehow come back to haunt Edmure at some point.
I have no doubt that it will. And I remember what I was going to say. When they're fighting, Brandon's like, yield. He called more than once, but Peter would shake his head and fight.
And we've talked about 2 examples of that in the past with Jon, right?
Yeah, and if not to mention Jon, there is it Duck that has a phrase that he repeats when he's fighting?
No, it's actually Egg that repeats something whenever he sees people fight.
Okay.
Hit him, he's right there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just telling you in that situation, which I think is the three-eyed crow that doesn't let Littlefinger die and everything. Somebody's watching
him. I think it's get him because people have speculated that it's about saving the baby at maybe even saving Rhaegar at Summerhall.
Ooh.
Get him, he's right there. And so people have speculated that's because that's repeated over and over again.
Ooh,
that it might mean that that's what happens at Summerhall. Get him, he's right there. Like that Egg and Dunk managed to get Rhaegar out.
Yeah. Now, I mean, there are those, and I've seen it, and I don't know how tinfoily it is. I didn't continue to look at it, and I definitely didn't look into it. That Cold Hands is actually Dunk.
Mm.
And if he got Rhaegar out, then wouldn't he have survived Summerhall, even though he said he died?
Well, there's something about, somehow his foot is going to be involved too, in like propping the door open or something, right? I mean, because he talks about, it specifically mentions that is his foot more important, is saving his foot. There's something about how they would have only cut off his foot.
The foot of a hedge knight.
Yeah, well, that they would have only cut off his foot if he'd been found guilty or something along those lines. That how can my foot save the kingdom more than
Yeah.
So anyway, then one of the greatest Targaryens that dies for him.
Right. But again, on that situation, I mean, if he saved Rhaegar, then he should be still out there somewhere. But granted, he would be slightly younger than old Nan. But this is Dunk we're talking about.
Yeah. It's 7 foot tall people don't usually live to be in their 90s.
Well, in this story, there's supernatural, so
yeah. No, I know, I get it. I mean, Cold Hands is obviously living way beyond his normal.
Yeah, he's the undead, so he's good.
Right.
But,
so it could be anybody, right?
Yeah. All right, go ahead.
He was quicker, Catelyn saw. The knight's silvered sword never came near to touching him, but his own ugly gray blade hacked a notch from Ser Vardis' shoulder plate. You'll see, we've talked about how arms, necks, and eyes are some of our author's favorite symbolic wounds, although he also does do legs quite a bit.
Yeah.
Oak chips flew as bronze sword hacked at the wooden wall. The wall is attacked. Jon Arryn's beautiful engraved silver sword glanced off the marble elbow of the weeping woman and snapped clean a third of the way up the blade. So the last year on the Titan of Braavos have broken swords too, and ice becoming two swords is sort of similar symbolism. And so it does make you wonder if the broken sword symbolism may have some more parts to play, or whether it just refers to the concept of maybe reforging ice from its two halves or something.
Right. And not to get too tinfoily on that, I think that Gendry can reforge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's certainly a reasonable theory. Is it over, Mother? The Lord of the Eyrie asked. No, Catelyn wanted to tell him. It's only now beginning. Now it ends. No, now it begins.
I love the repeating.
It's kind of backwards, but yes.
Yeah.
See that they have horses and supplies sufficient to reach the Trident, and make certain all their goods and weapons are returned to them. They shall need them on the high road. The high road, Tyrion Lannister said. Lysa allowed herself a faint, satisfied smile. It was another sort of death sentence, Catelyn realized. Tyrion Lannister must know that as well. Yet the dwarf favored Lady Arryn with a mocking bow. As you command, my lady, he said. I believe we know the way. Life is full of possibilities.
Yes. Her saying that is getting back to there being a full court there, that nobody could bring it up against her, that they weren't provisioned, they didn't have their horses, they didn't have everything that was belonging to them.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Given that it's considered a death sentence by anybody of common sense, it feels like
well, she's not common sense.
Yeah, well, sort of vaguely plausible deniability, I suppose.
Right. Well, I mean, isn't giving him a horse, doesn't that end guest rights?
Oh, giving them gifts. Yeah, that's sure. Yeah, man. I realize that she's not murdering them directly, but
Right.
it's the fact that she's satisfied that it's a death sentence, that Tyrion knows it's a death sentence, although he's, like I said, life is full of possibilities.
Oh yeah. And getting back to the repeating, the phrase "make him fly." All right, it's said twice in this chapter, and I want to see him fly. It's said once, and then others repeat the he wants to see him fly. It's said several times for Robin himself to actually use the words him fly is done 3 times. And I don't know if that's more of the magic that's in the Weirwood chair throne thing going on, or the voices that he hears. That just says that there's somebody.
Yeah, and it could also be Chimera dragon riding and foreshadowing. I mean, or at least leaving those seeds open, right?
In the Vale, in the past, won by a dragon ride. They gave the
they wrote that. I mean, in the guy he's supposed to look a little, he's supposed to remind you, I think, of Robert, right? The fact that they had this baby in charge of the Vale, and that he wanted to ride with I guess it would have been Vagar, right? It would have been Visenya and Vagar, I think. When they were conquering.
I would think it is.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Visenya and Vagar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is that foreshadowing that Dany might be able to win support of the Vale with just a dragon ride? Or
yeah, maybe she gets Lord Robert on her side with her dragon and dragon ride. Yeah, that's possible.
If he's still there.
I like that, because it's always bothered me. I mean, the only thing I can think of as to why there's all this foreshadowing of the impregnable Eyrie and a dragon would be if we're really going to see Dany after Winter trying to conquer. Is the only way you could see the Eyrie like reopening and so forth, and so that's always kind of bothered me. I do think there are hints that the ice is going to be dealt with before the fire, and I kind of hope it's not the case. And I'm glad to see that George is like considering his writing is leading him down paths that may not lead to where he thought it was going before. That could be good news,
Yeah, he could have fished himself, swallowed the hook, and went a completely different way than he thought he was going to go.
Yeah. So that could bode well and mean that some of these things are no longer seeds that have been weeds that have been successfully pulled out, as we talked about.
Yeah, I like your weeds winter reference. You're correct 100% that there are so many seeds that he's got to pull some of the weeds to get this story back to a manageable conclusion that he'll be able to get it done. So I love that weeds winter. Actually, I might get that on a shirt. I'm wearing this one because I didn't watch the other one. I was supposed to get a shirt today for Old Dude that said Hidden Fingers. But it's supposed to be here this afternoon, and I was like, dang it, I thought it was supposed to be here this morning, but it didn't work out that way. But weeds of winter sounds like a really good shirt idea.
Yeah, should be somebody with some, maybe it needs to have tinfoil on it somehow or something.
No, I saved the tinfoil for me. I put a tinfoil hat on something. That's a good little chapter. I mean, Bronn is a badass without a doubt, and he's definitely not scared to fight with anything but honor, whatever keeps him alive.
Oh yeah,
but he comes in handy for Tyrion for a little while. But yeah, that's a good chapter.
Yeah, it's interesting that will anything more happen with him, or what's going to happen with
they keep him in the story, though. They keep mentioning him.
Yeah.
That makes me think that he's going to bring him back in. For what reason, I don't know, but he's still on the lips of people as the story goes along.
Yeah, I mean, although George sort of implied that he shouldn't be as major as they made him in the show, right? He seemed like he was kind of a little turned off by the fact that they were that they liked an actor's performance, so they turned a minor character into more of a major character. He seemed to think that was wrong.
They did that quite a bit. They did that with Rose too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there is no Rose, right? Chitaya maybe.
Right. But okay, that was it. Nice and easy.
Yeah.
3-day weekend. Everybody stay safe. I will try to get a hold of the Green Bard to see if he would like to do like a Friday or Saturday or some kind of night live stream.
I think I may have to. I think this Wednesday would probably be the first Wednesday of the month, and I have a standing meeting on the first Wednesdays near lunchtime, so I probably can't.
We're back to just Friday next week.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. It gives me a break.
Yeah, what is the next chapter? Kindle.
John. Ooh. Yeah, it's a John chapter.
Yep.
There's more Alistair in this one. It's when John finds out that he's.
This is where he's going to convince them to promote Sam, right?
Yeah, that. I think he finds out that he's going to be a steward. Yep. Yeah, it's the chapter he finds out he's a steward.
And gets Sam promoted.
Right.
Yeah, it's a pretty good chapter. I like it. It's pretty straightforward, but
there's some little stuff in this chapter, but still.
Yeah. Certainly, John's arguments are really good, and it really shows that he's growing as a character a little bit. And
I mean, the spoilt little. I mean, granted, he was the bastard born and all that, and treated like, oh no, you're a bastard, but he wasn't treated like that all the time. He was just treated like that from Cat. Everybody else treated him like a Stark, pretty much.
Right. Yeah. He's already.
Go ahead.
He's already gone from the bully to he's already been told he was the bully and kind of grown from there and started helping people and now he's being smart enough to realize that Sam has uses and so forth, right? And it's a really good argument.
Right. Also, he gets his bubble busted again by being made a steward, and that knocks him down another notch.
Yeah.
His internal monologue, and I mean, granted, a lot of people got really good story arcs in this story, and I know a lot of people out there don't really like John. He's one of my favorite to read, just from his inner monologue that we get. Arya's one. Tyrion, even though he starts to turn dark, their inner monologues and just the path that they're on. And I didn't realize it, but also Sansa. You listen to the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. She's spoiled, blah, blah, blah. She's bad. She's not. She's really intelligent, and she's doing exactly what she was trained to do to survive.
Yeah, she's incredibly competent and becoming and learning and growing, and that's that's nice to see. After
a couple of reads, you start finding that you see a difference in people that you didn't see before. So that's one of the reasons I like the rereads, because it might tilt you toward, okay, I like this character a little bit better, or to go the other way with it, I might not like this character as much as I thought I did, just because you see more every time you read it. But doing these in this book with you point out stuff that I'd have never caught 7, 8, 9, 10 reads through. I mean, some of it's lost on me, but I appreciate it. All right, well, we'll do John next Friday. Everybody have a good weekend, a 3-day weekend for those who do. If you got to work Monday, I'm sorry. Hopefully they'll let you off early today. And then that's it. Everybody stay safe. And I have been Old New Dude, and he has been
Richard York, Asher's Trueborn son.
Y'all have a good weekend.
You too. Bye.
Bye.